Right, just a disclaimer for today's episode. Obviously, you can see we're doing diff seals, or not diff seals. We're doing a CV axle in a 2014 Kawasaki Teryx4. It's the 800cc model. Now, a quick disclaimer for today's episode. I do know what I'm doing. I've had comments of people saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, blah, 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 blah. What people forget to realize is I'm in control of the comments, so I can remove and I can control all my comments. So you can leave them, but they're not going to stay. And I don't take anything to heart. Nice comments I do. I absolutely love the nice comments. I try to reply to all the comments, whether they're bad or good. So that's just a disclaimer for today's episode. You can think I don't know what you're doing, but when you're sitting in your 60th floor apartment building and have never touched a motor before, it's hard to judge somebody that they don't know what they're doing. But anyway, on to the video. Okay, I've tried to make a windbreak here. Hopefully the wind isn't terrible because we're getting into late fall, so it's starting to blow in the cold weather. 9/16 for these two bolts and an inch and a 1/16, 1 1/16 nut for this side with a cotter pin that's here. Anyway, we're going to pop this off. I have a 9/16 wrench just in case that decides to spin. We're going to try and buzz it off with the impact, but I don't remember how much impact battery I got. So bear with me. Hopefully there's minimal to no wind noise. It's a good way to clean off the bolts anyway. Okay, it's not going to come off with that, so I'm going to fight these bolts loose. I'm going to get this out, and I'll show you why there's a tear in our CV boot. There. We'll get it out, and we'll take a look. There's usually a 4-prong knuckle in those. Sometimes there's not. You can rebuild these CVs, but to me, for just me, I like to put new ones in because they're by the time you rebuild them and you get 2 more years out of them, you might as well just buy a new one and get 8 years, 10 years out of it, and you'll be good. Okay, I'm going to get this out because the wind's getting bad. Okay, I wanted to quickly chime in here and say when you pull these hubs off, we're going to, when we go to reinstall, I'm going to show you we're going to grease this up because these threads are meant to be greased. Now this old one doesn't matter because it's coming out because it's ripped, so it's coming out. But you want to re-grease these and they should go on smoothly. This one here I'm having to pound off. So we're going to clean the inside of the threads as best as we can. Then we're going to fill it with grease and shove the new one on this. So then you take these 2 bolts out and then the whole thing slides out from up in here. So we'll get that. I'll get that off, get these 2 bolts out, and then we'll pull this out together. Alright, so I got these nasty old bolts off. They're rusted at the ends. The best is to use anti-seize. A lot of old timers say, no, not antifreeze. Well, unfortunately, you know, antifreeze is the way to go in most situations. So this here hub is now unbolted, and you got to be careful because there's a wheel bearing in here. Okay, and now this upper A-arm can flex, and then this lower A-arm is kind of solid. So we're going to see, I'm going to fight with this for a bit. Let's see if we can just tap her loose. We might be able to tap it this back. We'll see. Let me fight with it. I'll get this hub off and then I'll get you back to do this upper piece here. Again, quick disclaimer, or not a disclaimer, but a quick tip is this is a wheel bearing here, so check these. We probably are going to end up repacking the wheel bearing that's in here, and then we're going to grease the shaft on the new one, which is this, and then we'll grease the inside of that collar too. Just saying, it's a good idea to keep grease in. I wish there was a grease zerk to put in here so that you could grease that, but there's not. That's kind of a bad design, I think. Anyway, we'll see then. Well, I just kind of accidentally tugged on this and the whole thing came out, so I didn't have it on film, but we'll get you for sure back in there to get the new one. Now this has splines on it as well, and so I will grease this This side's fine. It's right on this side where you can see, actually we got two tears in this one. We got a tear here and a tear here. And you can see inside this pivot, it's just not, you know, I can feel, I mean, there's grease there, but there's also dirt and mud, and that's just not good for a CV boot. They don't like that. They're encased in grease, so in this casing, you know, they usually keep them full of grease, or not, you know, heaping full of grease per se, but there's grease in them to keep everything moving. Now, side to side movements like this is good, but not, you know, I mean, some back and forth I get, but not ripped boots. That's going to cause clicking, which is what happened on this T-Rex. So once we get this new boot in, we'll take it for a test drive. I don't have a video clip of it before. If I really wanted to, I could put this all back together, drive it, and do a video clip, but I'm not that serious about it. So this is dirty, obviously. I mean, if you said it was clean, yeah. Anyway, we're going to clean this up too before we get this hub put back, or this, yeah, the hub. So I'm going to pound this out and get this out of here, and I'll come back when the new one is in, which will be tomorrow, which is today's video still, but it's tomorrow for me, and we'll get this new CV axle put in, is what it's called. And these commonly they go, I have a, oh, I found another rip in this CV boot. So there's a rip there, a rip there, rip there. Let's keep turning it and looking for rips. Yeah, so we got two rips and then a third rip right there. So that CV boot is all brittle. You know, it should, you can hear that. Anyway, before I yip on too much longer, I'm going to see you tomorrow with the new CV axle, and we'll get it put in, and then we'll get the tire put back on and take it for a test drive. These here bolts I'm going to lube up as well with some grease. The hubs need grease. You know, grease. I'll show you what's all grease and stuff if you want to do this at home. So see you then. So this is that hub that the CV axle goes through. Now I thought these were the normal style wheel bearings. And now by normal style, I mean, I thought that we're missing a, I'll have to look, we might be missing a washer. Anyway, this style is a solid encased style that spins, right? It's a tube that spins. Well, I thought this was greasable. The normal ones are kind of a cone shape with needle bearings on them, and you pack them, and then they go in, and then the castle nut holds it down. I thought these were that. Now, if I did my research, I could have figured out that these are that style. Now, would I say I like the style? I probably like this style better than the kind of cone-shaped ones, because this style, I think, holds up better. I have seen this style before. Quads normally have this style, but I thought because it was a side-by-side, it would be more like a car or a truck in that fashion. So without me yipping on too much longer, the next clip you'll see is us putting this all back together. This was rusty inside here. You can see it there, so we'll clean that out, grease that. What I use for grease is moly grease. There's different kinds. The moly does collect a little bit more dust, but in the applications that we're putting it in, there's going to be no dust getting to it for the moly grease. And it's more kind of a, I like moly grease better than all the rest of the greases, so that's what I use. There's no real up and down play in these bearings, so I don't see an issue in replacing these wheel bearings. I can down the road, but I say the bearings are still fine. They still move. There's no major grinding noises. I might replace them this winter. I don't know yet. So, with that being said, I'll see you when we get this new CV axle. Okay, it is the next evening. We got the new CV axle. I had to pressure fit this hub on. I was going to grease it, but I cleaned the rust off, and I got the hub on. So now it's time to get it put into the T-Rex. This is a Teryx4 2014. This A-arm's still good. Okay, let's get this up in here. Can you see? It goes up into that hole. Oh, this is heavy. Come on, get up there. Sorry if I'm in your way. Okay, I'm going to fight with this, get this in. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. I'm going to get this put back in. Like I say, pressure fit this hub on there, so I'll get it put in and I'll come back. I'm just shoving it up, and then I'll come back when we bolt this up. Right, so I just had to put the bottom bolt in to pivot everything. I opted against greasing literally everything, just because I don't want to force grease in places that are being pressure fit, and I screwed up. So you remember when we took it apart, there was 2 washers. One goes on one side, one goes on the other. That's what that's for. I'll take this thing for a test drive after, get it test driven. So these CV axles, you can, I mean, I haven't, but you can rebuild them. I see no point in it, because really why, when you can just buy a new one. And that's a problem. A lot of the times people will want to try to rebuild everything, but they'll opt against it because it's so much easier just to buy a brand new part than you're not. Because, you know, you could buy a new part and it lasts you 8 years, was what the other CV axle lasted. Or you could rebuild it and get 2 extra years out of it, and end up having to put a new CV axle in it 2 years down the road. And so it's not worth it when you can just put a new CV axle for that amount of money in it and come out no further behind than when you started, and pretty much, you know, just call it if you lose out on it, you lose out on it kind of thing, and call it a loss if you lose out, which I know you won't. Yeah. So these here you want to cinch down till they're nice, real tight. So you can build a homemade ratchet wrench with a socket on the other end, ratchet it down and cinch it down good and tight with the wrench. And then you have to, once it's tight, sorry for the cows, I live on a farm / acreage, and they're hungry, so I have to feed them after this. Right, so let's get this cinched down. Right. You don't want no play in this hub at all, because that's how you wear out your wheel bearings. Now, these are an encapsulated bearing. Normally they are a half moon style, like the ones you find in pickup trucks. Those are a half moon style bearing, kind of an oval shape, a needle bearing, and that's what those are. I do have a new cotter pin I'll throw in this. I just got to go up in the bus and get it, so I'll do that last. This goes on here. This goes on here. Gotta suck this hub in more so that I can get this on and the nut on, and then cinch it down, and that's back together. So I'm going to fight with this, getting this drawn out a little bit more. Then I'll come back and we'll bolt this up. This big washer goes here. Then this washer. So yeah, I'll get back to you.
So we're finishing off what we started here on this 2014 T-Rex. We've taken this out for about 175 kilometer drive or so, and nothing's happened. Now this ain't the Rhino brand one. That Rhino one was too small by about an inch. And you've seen how it bolts up. The 2 bolts go in on the axle, the castle nut goes on the end. So I thought to myself, there's really no point in me showing you that, that I'll just make this. So it works good. I'll let you know like after 3 months. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.